just having a lawyer that believes in you and is willing to put the work in, I think is really 80, 85% of it. I think that a lot of the other stuff we do is kind of just the marginal stuff that can make a difference in the right case. But at the very, very heart of it, it's just doing the work and believing what you say.
Michael, you're exactly right. These clients, and I feel this way uh, even more strongly today, deserve to have a champion that believes in them, that knows that client, and who is willing to give the all that's necessary in order to give that person a good trial. These guys that think that they can pick up a file on Monday morning and go over and try a case and do a great job uh, are sadly mistaken, and they're shortchanging their clients. There's just no substitute for putting in all the work that's necessary to know the case backwards and forwards.
Yeah, and the culture of sharing has really changed too since I started. Because when fairly early on in my career, I went to go work for an experienced trial lawyer, and for various reasons, he quit, and I had to start my own law firm way before I was ready. And I remember I talked to another really, really, really good trial lawyer that had an office in the Rio Grande Valley, Texas, Brownsville, where I lived, and asked him for a job. And he flat out told me, Michael, if I hire you, you're going to learn all my secrets and go compete with me. And so I'm not going to hire you. And there was this sense that, there was a set of secrets that people had to keep to themselves for a competitive advantage. And now I see the exact opposite. I see this abundance mentality, people sharing, trying to all make each other better.
Well, yeah, I mean, the attitude now is that rising water lifts all boats. So let's help each other out and go kick the butts of some big corporations and insurance companies.
And ironically, I personally found, I don't know about you, but for business, when I am freely sharing with other people, they're far more likely to bring me business opportunities. When they have that right case where they want help or need help, they're far more likely to go to the person that freely shared with them than the person said, no, this is mine, I'm not going to share with you. It's you give to others, you tend to get back. I'm not saying that's the reason we should share. We should be willing to share whether or not we're going to get something in return. But I have found that over time that the money takes care of itself just fine.
And the amazing thing that, and you know this as well as I do, when you teach, when you speak at seminars, when you teach when I teach at trial lawyers college events, I get more out of it than my students do. I mean,
Yeah.
just the opportunity to concentrate on one subject there, prepare to try to communicate that to others, just does so much to educate me. I mean, it's like my first boss telling me, figure it out on your own. I did figure it out on my own, and I learned it.
Yeah.
I looked at it once and I used it, and I didn't have to go back to look again to remember the next time.
You've also talked about before when we were talking, before the listening with the third ear when you're doing this kind of listening. What do you mean by listening with the third ear?
Listening with your heart. Listening not just with the two ears that you have, but listening for that story that is beneath the words that are being spoken. And that third ear is the emotional content of what you're hearing from the client. And when you concentrate hard, and when you really focus on what that person's saying and empathize with what they're saying and what they're going through, that's when you activate that third ear. And maybe to some of the listeners it sounds hokey, but I promise you, if you'll just take the time in a quiet place and listen closely and listen for the words, maybe the words that are not being spoken, but those words that, if they had the ability, and some of our clients don't have the ability, but if they had the ability to say those words, those are the emotions that would be coming out from what they said. It's one of those cases that you look back on and you think, I got to try this with my nephew, and everything just went right.
Those are the sweetest trials, aren't they? When you don't expect it and then boom.
Right. I mean, absolutely. I mean, 250 was way too low, but let's say if they offered $500,000, how could I say to Mr. Gurbani, you need to turn that down. We'll do better. And then the greatest thing about it was, in Florida, they have what's called a proposal for settlement, and if you give that to the defendant and you exceed it by more than 10%, which we did, they have to pay all the costs and attorney's fees from that point on. Yeah, so it was a really nice verdict, and really one of the highlights. Not the biggest verdict ever, but certainly one of the highlights of my career.
It is amazing how many times you talk to experienced trial lawyers and their favorite verdict isn't necessarily the biggest one.
That's it. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a trial is a combination of so many things, and there's so many things that can go right. Then there's those things that keep you up at night. That there's so many things that can go wrong. That when it all goes right, it just I can't look back. I look back on that trial and I can't think of anything that I wish that I had done differently.